Hey YouTube, right here. Just wanted to go ahead and make this video because my cousin came over today and we were sitting out front talking, just shooting the shit, and we ended up getting into a pretty interesting discussion, and I kind of wanted to go ahead, bring it here, and also expand upon it. We were talking about why there are some games that even as they get older, they still remain popular. And I'm not talking about strictly one type of genre of game. There are certain games that people just continue to love, and that they end up loving it so much that they end up going through, and you've got modding communities that go ahead and continue adding content to the game well after the developer has stopped supporting the game. I mean, those are few and far in between. So what really sets them apart? I mean, you've got some games that are still popular, just in their regular form, that, like Final Fantasy VII. A lot of people absolutely love the original Final Fantasy VII. There's a lot of people bitching about the episodic nature of the new Final Fantasy VII and the changes to the combat system, so on and so forth. If it wasn't being released in episodic chunks, then I would have probably bought it. But, see one of my previous videos, as far as me not being willing to buy a game piecemeal. But you've got games like Minecraft, which I know that Mojang, even though it got bought out by Microsoft, it's still supporting it, it's still updating it and adding new things and all of that. But I'm just, at this point, I'm talking about the modding community. I mean, good God. With Minecraft, you can basically create completely different games by combining different mods. And some mods actually add a new game in and of themselves. But another one that I've actually been playing again recently is Skyrim. And I've been looking at what kind of mods that there are for it. Right now I'm playing through the vanilla game, with the DLCs. I have the special edition version, so I have all the DLC for it. But I've been going ahead and taking a look at different mods of all different types for the game. And there are a ton of mods for this game. And a lot of them very high quality. And I'm actually looking forward, once I'm done with my vanilla run-through, being able to go through and actually get, different, going ahead and getting the achievements first for it. Because when I first played through Skyrim, I actually didn't play through all of the DLC. I didn't, play all the way through the storyline. It kind of got overshadowed by other games that had come out. But now that I'm in kind of a lull, as far as games available to me, I'm going ahead and playing through Skyrim. And the thing is the game still looks fantastic. It still plays great. It's got a lot of the right things done. And I mean, people have come to expect a lot from Bethesda because of the pure and simple fact that, well, Bethesda has consistently delivered. So when Bethesda releases something, people tend to trust it. Well, at least that was the case until Elder Scrolls Online came out, but I'm not going to completely fault Bethesda on that one, but it was a bad choice for them to sit there and say, oh yeah, go ahead and use RIP. I'll probably cover that again at some point later on down the line in another video. But we're talking about, the positives at this point. What about these games makes people want to dedicate the time to create new content for it? I mean, that's very rare. Usually a lot of people are sitting there and wanting new content, they're asking for it. But it's very rare that people will actually take the initiative to go out and create said new content. Well, one thing that I've noticed about games that end up pulling off this extraordinary feat is they tend to be open world, which, I mean, that gives you a little bit more leeway as a modder, so I can kind of understand that. But the game has to have a compelling story to begin with. It has to have a populated world, and it has to really capture the imagination. It has to have a good fan base. So when I sit there and I look at games like this that end up having all this extra content made for it by people who don't work for the company, and honestly who aren't really looking to even make money, just doing it for the fun of it, or even if they do have a link to their Patreon, understandable. I mean, they're putting in a lot of effort, and if they're delivering a quality product at that point, even if it's piggybacking off of another company's work, it still deserves that recognition. Some people sit there and say that modders should never expect any money for their mods. I disagree with that to a degree. The whole modding thing that Steam tried to do, I don't think that's the way to go ahead and do it, because at that point now you're adding a paywall for mods. And you can only quality control so much of that. But I'm not going to go ahead and really get too much into that. But, I mean, looking at Minecraft, I mean, there's really not much of a story there. But there's a lot that you can already do, and people saw the potential and decided to expand upon it. Skyrim, another big one for mods. Absolutely fantastic. I don't know if Oblivion got a lot of mods, but there was a lot of content in Oblivion, and just playing through the vanilla took you hours upon hours. I mean, I know with Oblivion, I ended up sinking in on one section of save files. I was already over 200 hours in. And that's just on one section of save files, and I basically had a save file for each class. But with Skyrim, you it's a build your own class from scratch type of situation. And you can change it up at pretty much any time. But when I look at it, and I look at all the mods, and I mean, some of these mods add an extra, 60, 70 hours of content to it. And that just, I love seeing things like that, because it also, if a developer actually takes the time to look at the mods, we've actually seen situations where mods have actually been made part of a game officially. The mod concept was purchased from the modder, or the modder was hired on at the company. And that's absolutely fantastic. I think that's a great way of scouting talent for these companies. Because at that point, you know that the person's driven. You know that the person has the skills necessary to create a high-quality mod. Even if it's a group of people creating it, you can hire them as a subsection. I think that's absolutely fantastic, and it's a great idea, and it's a win-win situation for everyone. I mean, the initial creators of the game, they find that new talent, so it's a win for them. Then you've got the modders themselves who are winning on this, because now they're gainfully employed and they're being paid for the work that they were previously doing for free. So absolutely fantastic there. And us as the consumers win, because we get more content, and we get people behind that content who actually really have a passion for the content that they're creating. And it ends up showing. You can definitely tell when someone's making a mod just to make a mod, and people who are making the mod because they absolutely love the game and they want to expand upon it. or in some way improve the game. And the thing is that doesn't mean that they're sitting there and saying, oh, this game's shit. I'm going to go ahead and show them how it's done. It's not even necessarily that. Sometimes they'll see a problem with the game, and it's something that they know that the creators aren't going to get around to, or that they kind of hit a roadblock on, and they're not showing any signs of moving forward with it. So then they go ahead and take it on themselves to go ahead and correct that. Optimization mods are a big thing that end up happening. I mean, hell, even Skyrim has optimization mods, and that game is pretty well optimized as it is. I don't have the most powerful computer. In fact, I'm only a few steps above a potato computer. Let's be completely honest. It's not a bad computer, but my computer is over a decade old. So, take that into account. But the fact is at this point, we've gotten to where we can see which games really invoke that. And there's some games that would evoke that. But unfortunately, the companies don't look at the modding community as a benefit to them. They look at them as some sort of hindrance. Like, for some odd reason, if people are playing their games with mods, it's somehow a slap in the face, or somehow they think that they're losing sales. Whatever. There's multiple reasons for it, whether it be ego or fear of economic loss. At which point, I'm sorry, if you have a strong modding community, I mean, Minecraft, it keeps its sales up because of the pure and simple fact that the modding community is so strong. People see these people playing on these modded servers, or playing a modded version of it. The different mod packs that are available, and Mojang, well, now Microsoft, gets sales for that because people wanting to play. And I don't see a problem with that model. I mean, again, everyone wins. The consumer wins because they get all of that extra content, and then on top of that, now I can see a company sitting there and saying, well, if this combination of mods has all of these features in there, and that completely negates whatever DLC we put out. Well, at that point, it's all like, you got some pretty basic DLC, and maybe you should have put a little bit more into it if you were going to say that it was needed. But also at the same time, maybe at that point you might want to look at Modder, because they managed to get the work done before you were able to, and then on top of that, they had the idea sooner. So maybe it's worthwhile for you to take a look into them as hiring them as staff. Why not? But when we go ahead and take a look at these games, you have to ask yourself, how is it that if graphics are everything, like a lot of these game companies seem to believe, why is it games like Minecraft are still so popular? Games like Terraria. Hell, even StarMade. I mean, don't get me wrong, good graphics are definitely a selling point, but it shouldn't be everything that you're based off of. And not to mention what people consider to be good graphics varies from person to person. Some people like more stylized graphics. Some people like more realistic graphics. You can usually tell the difference in their hardware. People that have those basically supercomputers that, cost you pretty much as a new motorcycle to go ahead and buy and build, well, then, they're probably going for more realistic graphics. They're probably playing games like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Ark, even, different games like that. Whereas people who have a mid-range computer, and they're like, my computer's good enough as it is, they're probably playing either older games or exceedingly well optimized games, or games like Minecraft and so on and so forth. But the thing is there's something about these games that are grabbing people. Different people want different things from their games, and that's understandable. I mean, gaming's a worldwide thing at this point, so you've got a lot of diversity there. You've got a lot of different people with a lot of different points of view. So when you make something, there's gonna be some market out there for it at the very least. But if you can go ahead and make something that's epic enough for people worldwide to just want more of it constantly, then you got some skill. You know you have yourself a winning pattern there. I mean, there's some that just kind of come out of nowhere, like over in Japan. You know, they were not expecting something like Dark Souls to be popular worldwide, and yet when Demon Souls and Dark Souls came out in the Western markets, all of a sudden it just exploded in popularity. So the thing is we need to get rid of this, oh, this will sell here but not here mentality. I mean, there's certain things, of course, that are gonna sell to certain demographics more. Like anime style games are going to sell more to people who like to watch anime and like those types of storylines, so on and so forth. Mabinogi comes to mind. In fact, on Mabinogi, whenever I do hop on, it's only a matter of time until I see people on there having arguments and public chat about which manga is the best manga, or which anime is the best anime, or, you know, waifu arguments, and, you know, just all that sort of shit. And it's understandable, because that game, having that anime style of not only storytelling, but also the graphical style, is going to draw that demographic. And then when you see games like Call of Duty and so on and so forth, that's going to go to a certain demographic. Does it mean that people outside of that demographic can't enjoy it? No, because there's a lot of overlap. But you end up seeing different patterns. And unfortunately, a lot of these companies are not looking at the patterns of games like Minecraft, StarMade, Ark, all of that. They're not looking at those patterns. They consider those games for some odd reason beneath them, even though their sales numbers are absolutely fantastic and have indeed held steady. Steady enough to at least get Microsoft's attention, or to keep the attention of a big company like Bethesda. So why are they not taking a look at that and us having more games similar to that? Because they're afraid of, you know, gamers saying, oh, well, this is just this with this overlay on it. Well, you can say that of just about any video game nowadays. I mean, they've all become so freaking homogenized, it's not even remotely close to funny. I mean, hell, Halo had its own niche audience, which was actually very sizable. And then all of a sudden, to try to increase that, they decided to go ahead and make the game feel more like Call of Duty. And all of a sudden, their sales started to go down. People started complaining. And they lost more sales than they gained. If you have a series that's already established, don't change it, guys. But if you're coming out with a new thing, don't be afraid to try new stuff. Even with an old franchise, don't be afraid to try new stuff, but keep it within reason. Make sure that it still has the feel of the game. And if you ever hear someone sit there and say that your game being compared to the older games is the equivalent of Final Fantasy Spirits Within being compared to Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy VIII, it's time for you to step back and take a good, long, hard look at what you're doing, and trying to figure out where you fucked up. And the best way to investigate that, ask your fans. Because your real fans will be honest with you. Don't go to the fanboys who say, oh yeah, you're doing everything right, and so on and so forth, even though you know you've done something wrong, because the statistics are saying that. Go to the ones who actually have some constructive criticism, and take that constructive criticism on board. So, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to end the video, small rant, but, yeah, I mean, if anyone's out there and they're planning on making a new video game, you know, throwing their hat into the ring, so to speak, by all means, go ahead and ask people who you know are active gamers, who like a diversity of games, and ask them, well, what do you like, what do you not like, what is the reason for not liking the things you don't like, and what's your reasons for liking the things that you do like. You might get some very useful information that can help you end up making a game that's as much of a hit as Minecraft or Skyrim or whatever. But the thing is lately it really seems like the key is good engagement with your target audience. So go ahead and keep that in mind, any would-be game designers, hell, even just modders out there that are looking to break into the field. Have a good night, YouTube. Take care of yourselves, be safe, and I'll talk to you all later.